Hi, I'd like to take some time to explain to you what we do here in the office and how I plan on helping you. The concept of what we do here is based on the fact that I decided I was going to do alternative medicine more than just chiropractic, because I recognized to be alternative healthcare oriented, we needed a more comprehensive approach. So I started looking around at the concepts of healthcare. And I looked in the United States and I recognized very quickly that we use a symptom-oriented system here. The concept is that if the symptom goes away, the problem goes away. And I think that's quite short-sighted. And I think you actually feel that yourself. So I looked around the world and I actually thought, unquestionably, that the best system was Eastern philosophy on healthcare. And as I tried to study it, I recognized that some of the principles were hard for me to understand. So as I'm going through this, it's getting more frustrating to me. And then I came across a book that somebody told me about. And what it was about was an orthopedic surgeon who actually decided they'd go to China to learn how to do acupuncture. And they failed miserably. And he was very frustrated by this. And then he recognized that until he understood the culture sum of how that people in Eastern philosophy think, he couldn't get the idea of what their healthcare was. And this was very helpful to me. And then I started to read books. One was called The Web That Has No Weaver, and it was very helpful. The concept I recognized is that the principles of healthcare were based on simplicity. And in the United States, I don't think our healthcare system is based on simplicity. Okay? So what they decided that they needed foundational principles to start from. And they didn't have anybody telling them what to do. They didn't have an AMA. They didn't have a pharmaceutical company that could actually devise a system which was based on what they actually found. So the foundational principle that they came across, although I find that a little embarrassing to say, is you can't be sick and healthy simultaneously. It seems like yeah, no kidding. But the bottom line is, it was supposed to be foundational. And it's kind of like gravity. When you drop something, it falls. It always does. So I couldn't find anything about the principle, you can't be sick and healthy simultaneously, that actually would be, I could disagree with or make a hole in. So good, now I have a foundation. So then what I look at is I'm going to build on that foundation. I said, okay, so if that is the case, that means the more healthful things you do, the less sick you're going to be. And I said, that seems to make sense with the foundation. But there was a proviso there, which was, but it's going to take time for the health to overcome the symptoms. Now, when you look at all these things, these are what the doctor would do. Okay? But there was a recognition that, what about the patient? What's his role or responsibility to help this process? So they came up with a concept and they said, we want you to look at symptoms in an entirely different way, where a symptom would be the kindness of the body to tell you what's going on, which is pretty much diametrically opposed to get rid of it no matter what. And the more I started to think about this, the more I recognized how brilliant it was, how simple it was. Because really, if you boil it down, it's the body saying to you, this is what's going on with me. And unfortunately, because of the orientation that we've had, we really don't look at the symptom. We just want to get it to go away. But if in fact you listen to what your body is saying, if you know how to interpret that, it'll help you heal. So basically at this point, it's like a foreign language to you. But you're able to perceive what it says. And fortunately, I have some understanding of how to read that language. So between the combination between the two of us, your intuition and my experience of doing this, it works out very well. The next thing that they looked at was the association that the doctor-patient relationship. In Western culture, we're looking at, you tell me what's going on, I do something, you go home and watch and see if it works. Well, that particular relationship does not lend itself to healing. What does lend itself to healing is listen. Now we have a problem. And we work simultaneously to actually resolve it. Because factually, it is not me healing you. It's helping your body heal. There's 100 trillion cells in your body that do 250 million things simultaneously. I'm not anywhere close to arrogant enough to recognize that I can heal anything. But I can facilitate healing between the two of us if we could get a relationship going and an understanding and agreement of how we're going to make this work. Okay? Now, all this information is philosophically excellent, but functionally, from my point of view, it didn't allow me, how do I help this person heal? What is healing? What's sick? So, it was recognized that this would occur, so it was back to the drawing board, per se, and looking at it from a simplistic point of view, the best thing to do is, well, let's really look at the patient. So they took a live person and a dead person, put them on the floor, and they all stood around them, and they said, okay, what's different? Now, after a long discussion, they realized, you know what they realized? One moved and one didn't. So that was the difference between them. There's another question, though. You know what it was? Why? So at this point in time, I think they were trying to recognize what really life is. They probably knew that, but that's what I see. So somehow they recognized there was energy in that body that moved. And they called it chi. It doesn't really matter what you call it. If you think of Western medicine, if you go in for an EKG, they put an oscilloscope around your heart, and they're looking for the energy coming out of there. And they recognize that when it goes like this, the person moves. And when it goes like this, they don't. I think an oscilloscope would be a great tool to use on the body to be able to evaluate its energy. But what they hypothesized is you can take a muscle and there's points on the body where that energy has to go. You just can't blast the body with energy and expect it to be coordinated. So there's individual energy points, heart acupuncture point or energy point, liver, spleen, kidneys. And if you touch that point and you hold a muscle tight, if there's a variation of energy there, the arm will drop like a rock. So therefore it gives us a way of starting. Because if you really think about it, if something is not animated, it can't work. Look, if you were trying to make toast and you forget to plug the toaster in, you're not getting any toast. Does that make sense? So in the initial part of your care, that's what it'll be based on, where there's energy and where there's not. From a simplicity standpoint, I think it's flawless. Does that make sense? Good. You'll be happy I'll be happy for you to ask me any questions and look forward to getting you better. Thank you.